So here's the rear fuel tank, and I'm getting ready to drop it back into the frame, and then I think I'll paint my Rustoleum over the frame, including my fuel tank. So for my custom straps here, my bracket, I just took some neoprene rubber strip here, 2-inch wide, and it's about, I don't know, 1/8 inch, 3/16 inch thick. And I just lined the interior of that strap with the rubber. And so when I drop my tank in, it'll have a little bit of cushion there so that it doesn't wear a hole into my tank over time. I just used a little double-sided tape to hold it in place so it doesn't shift while my tank goes in. Okay, so now the tank is in place, and I've got a little bit of rubber just to trim up here. I wanted to leave that long so I didn't have to fight that going in with the tank. But this is definitely a case of measure 2-3 times and design and build once. The tank is nice and snug in these saddle brackets, and it's got about 1/3 of a tank of fuel in it right now, but it just does not budge. It's a nice tight fit. That's what I intended it to be. And as far as location, I used the old straps, which were pretty much rusted all the way through. I used those as a pattern, but you can see the fill, the neck here is just right over the frame, so that's going to go to the side of the flatbed with the hose extension. Here you can see the bottom side. Those straps fit nicely into the recessed area of the tank, just like it did from the factory. I think my brackets are probably even just a little thicker than stock. Now, of course, I didn't go as far as to make the same profile of the tank, but there's enough surface area on the back and on the bottom to hold it in place. So now that it's installed, I scuffed it up a little bit before I dropped it in, and my next step is to apply coat number 4 to the frame, which will be a Rustoleum satin black as my top coat over the chassis saver, which does not have UV protection. And at the same time, I'll get a nice coat of paint on the fuel tank as well. Okay, I took a Scotch pad and scuffed the frame just a little bit, as well as the fuel tank. I masked it off a little bit, what I did want to paint. And I've got my Rustoleum satin black mixed with some acetone and some hardener. I've got my spray gun ready to go, and I'm going to shoot this with my Rustoleum, and hopefully this will be the last coat of paint. So should get a nice satin black finish that should at least protect the chassis saver and give me a nice black frame at least for a few years before the elements get to it. I moved my mobile cart outside here, so I've got my spray gun and my Rustoleum, and I'm using some acetone and just some catalyst that I purchased at Tractor Supply, just using a ratio that I found online. I think there's a lot of advice that you can find that's readily available. So I've got this mixed, and I should have plenty here in the cup. It's almost full. So I'm gonna shoot and see what it looks like. Here's one more view of the fuel tank after I painted it. And you can see my saddle brackets fit nicely right into the recessed grooves of the fuel tank. And so they hold it nice and snug. I still may put a couple straps over the top just to make sure that on a bumpy ride it wouldn't get jostled around. I know that is the way the tank would come factory. Otherwise, it's in there nice and snug, and I like the way that it turned out. This truck had the front fuel tank removed, and unless I'm going on some long trips, I might just leave the front fuel tank out. And this is about I think a 19-gallon capacity, so for longer trips it might be a little bit of a pain to have to refill, but at this point I like the way the frame is nice and open without having the front fuel tank in. Overall, I think I'm really pleased with the Rustoleum. I just used a ratio of paint, acetone, and then a little bit of hardener from Tractor Supply, and I think it gave the frame a nice durable last coat. Hopefully it lasts a few years.